Raised by a narcissistic psychopath, I endured abuse and learned survival. Years later, I confront my monster and break free. It is time for a tale filled with horror, damaged lives, resilience, joy, hatred, love, healing, and monsters. This began as a Facebook post on my personal page. I ultimately opted not to share it, fearing my extended family might react negatively. Expressing my feelings often aids my healing process, so occasionally I do. Many have suggested that I should write a book. I often wonder if they say this because of their affection for me. I am seeking the opinions of strangers who have no bias for or against me. I do not know if anyone will truly read this, but here we are nonetheless. If this were a book, would you choose to read it? I would adopt a pseudonym, yet obviously, the individuals involved would recognize it as my work. I aim to write a book that helps others realize they are not alone while also serving as a part of my own healing journey. Do you think my family would overreact and cause chaos? Am I the antagonist if I actually attempt to write a book about this in the future? P.S. This is a preliminary version of what the book might encompass, but I am hesitant to invest effort unless it is worthwhile reading. Please share your thoughts. Please be kind, yet honest. Sharing this was not easy for me. Trigger warning: upcoming topics include narcissistic abuse, rape, murder, and more. I will reveal the beginning far down, so you can decide whether you are in a suitable place to read this. This is essentially me laying bare my soul. I am unsure why I feel compelled to speak my truth regarding this matter now. I can speculate, though. Thus, this writing may be chaotic. Please bear with me. This is the story of my monster. Here we go. My nightmare. My most significant abuser. My first love. My first guardian. The source of my nighttime anxieties. The reason I fought grown men in bars when intoxicated. The cause of my hypervigilance today. The reason I fiercely defend my children. The catalyst for my healing and recovery. The visage I unconsciously see in every dangerous, predatory, violent, and evil man who helped to raise me, and I call him Dad. This is something I have only subtly referenced publicly. Only those who are or have been extremely close to me, my therapists, and a few others are aware of this buried, dark truth. I will only share my own experience and strive to avoid commenting on how others should heal or manage similar situations. I was raised by a genuine narcissistic psychopath who was eventually apprehended and incarcerated for rape and conspiracy to commit murder. He is also a sex addict, a chronic cheater, has a gambling addiction, was a drug dealer, an alcoholic, and an exceedingly dangerous man. Regrettably, after being caught, he was released after just over 10 years. He is now free in society. He is on lifetime probation and is monitored as much as a freed man who poses a danger to society can be. He wished to lead a double life, to present the facade of a perfect family, while myself and others helped him construct this false narrative. As I gripped the brush and participated in painting his beautiful lies, I was oblivious to the fact that I was doing so. That is the power of a skilled manipulator. It is astonishing what our minds can do to help us survive. To outsiders, we appeared as a blissful family with minimal issues. Meanwhile, away from the house, sometimes even within it, he committed unspeakable atrocities. Of course, some were privy to his darker side. I was not one of them, or at least my mind convinced me so. At that time, I was his little soldier. I was a fragile child. I could have been swept away by the wind, and I believed that frightened him. Thus, I became his project, his obedient warrior. On warm, sunny days, it was just the two of us swimming in the pool. He would place a Tupperware container over my face and gently push me beneath the clear, calming blue water. I willingly participated in this. I complied with many of his requests. He only needed to ask once. The aim of this exercise was to see how long I could conserve air in the Tupperware once my lungs had emptied. He taught me how to remove a man's eyes with my bare hands. We practiced this gruesome skill on imaginary men frequently. Thankfully, I have never utilized this ability. He instructed me on what to do if I found myself cast into the ocean with my hands and feet bound. He did not require actual ropes. My demon employed metaphorical bindings. I would bob in the pool, gasping for breath, never uncrossing my limbs for hours. He would also instruct me to float on my back for what felt like an eternity. Unsurprisingly, I later excelled on the swim team and can swim safely in the ocean for an extended period. I can also drift off while floating in a pool, lake, or sea. I do not do so now that I am sober, but I have done it before. Once, as a teenager, I performed toe touches for 7 hours because he was intoxicated and forgot that he had punished me. Regardless of how much discomfort and pain my body screamed in, I did not stop. He remembered as he stumbled to bed and saw me. There was no one else present to rescue me or halt his cruel games during these moments. Moving on. When he was released, instead of emerging as a frail old man, it seemed as if he had spent his time in a luxury retreat. His golden skin radiated, his thick hair remained jet black with only a few silver strands visible. His wrinkles gave him an air of sophistication and wisdom. He maintained excellent physical condition. Despite being nearly blind in one eye due to a detached retina from a prison fight, the universe has a dark sense of humor. You could not tell. A freezing chill coursed through me when I saw his picture after his release. It meant this ghoul was back in the world, and his fangs were concealed within an attractive facade that appeared to glow, fueled by the thought of freedom and his impending actions. I met his girlfriend nearly 2 years ago, almost to the day. She was charming and exuded happiness. I wonder if that remains true today. I was deeply concerned for her. It was evident that she was apprehensive about meeting me. Who knows what she envisioned I was? You see, I had severed ties with him years ago. He relishes portraying those who cut him off as the villain while casting himself as the innocent victim. I was preparing to relocate to an island 3,000 miles away, and was returning to him the mementos of his life that I had kept during his incarceration. It simply did not feel right to discard everything into a cold, desolate dumpster. Perhaps I hoped it would evoke fond memories and spark some semblance of humanity within him. Maybe I wanted to ensure that other unsuspecting individuals wouldn't touch his cherished belongings, tainted by the dark energy they contain. Perhaps my ego and the little girl within me, who once adored him, wished him to witness how beautiful my life had become in spite of him. Returning to his adorable girlfriend, I was acutely aware of the horror, filth, and suffering that lay ahead for her. This is the only way, and I mean the only way, he ultimately treats women. I urged her to flee. The monster that is my father and his potentially unsuspecting girlfriend laughed when I said this. They insisted they were too old to run, I told her, whose name I will not disclose, to crawl, swim, or fly away. Those were the exact words I desperately echoed at her as their car drove away. I doubt my words penetrated her psyche as they should have. My father informed me that he had met her over the phone and that they conversed daily before dating, and she adored his numerous tales. My husband quipped that he had established his own narcissist hotline. Occasionally, I must laugh to stave off spiraling thoughts. I have no idea what stories he shared with her. I cannot comprehend what draws her into his treacherous orbit, or whether any of his narratives hold truth. The best I could do was issue a warning. She appeared smitten. You see, dangerously charming narcissists can be exceedingly delightful and must be, to survive and locate victims to exploit, drain, and feed upon. As far as I know, he has never lived without a woman in the role of parasite, except perhaps his own mother. That is a separate story altogether, of which I am privy to fragments. My therapist once remarked that removing my father's influence felt akin to gradually extracting thousands of tentacles embedded with sharp barbs from my being. Anyone who has ever been under his gravitational pull for any length of time has not emerged unscathed. I am the only person I know of who has undergone over a decade of therapy, which will likely continue for the remainder of my life. I am among the few who enforce strict boundaries with him and adhere to them, while also transitioning from drowning in pain to fully swimming toward the light of healing, or escaping complete denial or blindness to him. However, this is my narrative, and I cannot dictate how others choose to navigate their lives. I am far from perfect or entirely healed. This is merely my portion of the story. Yours, if you know him, may differ significantly. Thank goodness for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. The cold sweat-inducing nightmares have dissipated for some time now. This does not make me superior to any of his other victims. It merely identifies me as the one who heeded the universe's whisper, achieved sobriety, and commenced the healing process. I will refrain from recounting the stories of others connected to him here, at least not by name or in extensive detail. There is a reason you do not know my last name. There is a reason my children do not bear his name. There is a reason I do not often delve into this subject in depth until now. It is burdensome, and he conditioned me to believe that others would doubt my truth. He never had to utter those words. A skilled monster need not vocalize certain sentiments, they are inherently understood. Furthermore, one comprehends the consequences of uttering the wrong thing, and witnesses what transpires when someone makes the attempt. Do you recall I mentioned that he was incarcerated for rape and conspiracy to murder? Well, she informed and nearly did not survive as a result. We shall refer to her as Lady X. Why does he have a girlfriend now? Why do women become involved with him, and why do family members support him? He possesses a remarkable ability to fabricate tales, portraying himself as the innocent victim of unfortunate circumstances or malicious schemes designed to tarnish his reputation. However, I was given access to all the recordings from his time in jail prior to his sentencing. His attorney handed them to me one day. I perused his exact words, the statements he made while plotting and funding Lady X's demise. That is how they were able to imprison him, by the way. Money exchanged hands, and he orchestrated all of this from behind bars. That tale is an entirely different narrative. In any case, those words are etched into my memory and soul. The phrases illustrated the truth in literal black and white. Before that moment, I questioned what was real, what I had witnessed as a child and young adult, and what I desperately wished was untrue. I could no longer deny his malevolence. The words were, "She is going to be cactus fertilizer," and "Kiss the bitch goodbye one last time for me." After absorbing this horrific reality, there was nothing he could say or do to convince me of his innocence. The veil had been lifted. The masks we wore faded away. There are significant gaps in my childhood memories. I recall my early years with my mother, grandparents, sisters, etc. But I only have a handful of memories about my time with him until I was 12, even though I spent a considerable amount of time with him as a child. I did not realize this until a few years ago. I always sensed that something was amiss, and occurrences took place that my mind chose to lock away behind nearly impossible padlocks. During my last session of eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, my mind offered me a choice. I envisioned, in my mind's eye, an image of my husband and children on a grassy hill, smiling in the sunlight. To my right loomed a dark, locked door with a pulsating red light shining behind it. I then heard, "You can open that door and reveal everything that happened to you and others, everything your mind shielded you from, but you won't be okay. The ones you love on the left will endure suffering alongside you. You cannot have both. Do you choose to dwell in the light with your husband and children, or will you open the door and unleash the horrifying truth?" I chose the light. Perhaps it is because my mind buried my trauma under 50 feet of dirt and concrete that I survived and was able to heal. Maybe the reprieve I experienced at my mother's house offered enough hope in the goodness of humanity and the splendor of this world. Perhaps this is the reason I am who I am now. Here's the truth he taught me what not to do as a parent, spouse, friend, partner, and human being in this world. My memories following the age of 12 serve as my blueprint to guide me in the opposite direction of his path. He instilled in me the truth that everything eventually emerges into the light. Always. Sometimes it simply takes many years. He educated me about the impossibility of infusing evil into this world and expecting beauty in return. He now possesses virtually nothing. His dreams of leading a double life ultimately did not last. One cannot sit at a family dinner table only to leave and harm and mutilate women's bodies and souls in the shadows of the night while anticipating peace as a result. I may never fully comprehend the depth of what he has committed in his lifetime, but I know enough. He used to share narratives at the dining table over warm mashed potatoes, juicy steak, crisp broccoli, and cold glasses of milk. He spoke of the people he killed, detailing how and why. He claimed to have never used a gun, as he believed manually loading the bullets was far more effective. I always regarded this as a jest or exaggeration, like a tall tale from a movie he had seen. He would recount his own experiences of childhood abuse while laughing about them. He treated both his own suffering and the torment of others as comedy, much like a dark comedy feature. We would swim together, and I would support him as he floated. He would barbecue in the backyard, and we would share laughter. We would have hearty laughs around the dinner table. At times, I found his jokes so amusing that I could barely catch my breath. He would meticulously paint my fingernails and toenails. He treated my stuffed animals and favorite blanket with great care as he mended them. He even danced with me at a local bar, where we giggled together. In that moment, he was joyfully inebriated. No individual is solely one thing. In my younger years, one of my distinct memories is telling him, "I love you," to which he replied, "I love me too." He would serenade himself, singing, "You are so beautiful," in front of the mirror each morning. I am well aware of what a true narcissist is. I understand that they are created by unimaginable childhood experiences. He was exposed to each and every one you could likely consider. Monsters can be formed when there is no safety anywhere during childhood. I genuinely believe he harbors love for me. I truly believe he desired a different life and to be a different person, but he could not. He simply could not. The darkness enveloped him. It seeped into his own home and onto his own children. He could not curb it. He achieved sobriety on numerous occasions. He attended anonymous meetings. He mentored men. He resided in the finest treatment facilities for sex addiction around the country. He enlisted the best therapists. It never took root. Never. He attempted to conceal his darkness from me, but it always lingered just beneath the surface, occasionally breaking through. I believe he ceased his activities when I entered puberty coincidentally. This is when my recollections begin. Many conclusions can be drawn from that. I have approached those closest to him regarding his tendencies. His secrets exist only as whispers during drunken episodes, subsequently retracted in sobriety. He thrived in a world of denial and hidden doors. At times, I gazed through those doors when he attempted to harm someone I loved right before my eyes, and I intervened. I believe I am the only one capable of breaking him out of his evil stupor. His shark-like eyes would soften. He would return to reality and make a hasty exit. The reality is that he made me his project. I am the oldest. He meticulously groomed me to be his soldier. He taught me how to fight for my life and come out victorious in volatile circumstances. Eventually, I had the epiphany that he was trying to prepare me and shield me from the very versions of himself that exist in this world. He poured some of his darkness into me. He consistently told me that men only want one thing. I think he recognized what he taught me and ingrained within me the capabilities he forced upon me. Once, when he was choking someone, I quietly commanded him to stop or else as I stared into his vacant eyes, wielding a red-hot curling iron inches from his face. I believe he understood that my, or else, would not end well for him. That realization might have been what halted him and prompted him to leave instead of finishing what he had begun. He transformed me into a warrior. As a result of his actions, I have become a fierce protector. I have been told I possess a distinct gaze reserved for dangerous men. Regardless of how much therapy I have undergone, or how profoundly I know in my heart that there are good, kind men in this world, I am married to one and am raising another. However, abusive and dangerous men will never be deemed safe in my presence. I maintain a significant distance from predators for this reason, and they are repelled by me. When I enter a crowded space filled with men, they clear a path for me. This still feels strange. When I walk alone at night, fill my gas tank under the moonlight, or stroll to my car in darkness, men never approach me. Never. When I enter my children's school to converse with the administration or staff, advocating for my children, the men listen quietly, and actions are taken. If they are volatile individuals, they depart and request never to speak to me again, avoiding my children in the future. I wish I did not need to possess this demeanor to protect myself and my kids from the jagged edges of this world. I wish I could be gentle, tender, and vulnerable with my family and friends. I wish they did not have to glimpse my past reflected in my eyes and stance. While many men are good-hearted, those with various levels of sinister intentions persist. As I previously mentioned, I do my utmost to evade them while consistently advocating for truth and justice. My monster molded me into a protector. He also inadvertently illustrated to me how to be gentle, compassionate, forgiving, and nurturing when raising a son who embodies the opposite of him. He unintentionally demonstrated the repercussions of failure to heal and what the children they produce can resemble. My monster shaped me into what popular culture refers to as an empath. I may never learn the total number of individuals or women he has harmed or even killed. I do, however, live with the repercussions of his actions within my extended family. I have yet to undertake a DNA ancestry test because I am not prepared to potentially discover how many half-siblings I may have. I'm also not ready to engage in discussions about our father with them. I am quite certain some family members will dismiss my experiences, claiming I am exaggerating or remembering inaccurately. Each of us survives in our way. I do not fault them for that. His tentacles can entwine with one's soul and obscure the truth. At times, reality can be quite overwhelming, especially in the absence of proper support. I know my truth. I know what I endured. I know who he was and is. I was gaslighted for an extended period. Therapy has provided clarity, most of the time, and I gained the resolve, the clarity to escape. The clarity to leave his home the moment I turned 17 and graduated. I won't say I never returned. I did. However, I can assert that I will never again fall under his control, and I will offer a safe haven to those who desire to break free from him. I can promise that my children will never experience his world, not ever. I no longer feel anger regarding what he inflicted upon me. I forgive him, but not for him, rather for my own peace. If I possessed names, dates, or locations of his victims, I would report him. I would take action, but he was too cunning to ever provide me with sufficient information to do so. Perhaps one day, when he has passed, I will reach out to someone to unearth his true history. It would likely resemble one of the documentaries I enjoy watching. By the way, it is probably why I can drift off to sleep while watching murder documentaries. They give me a sense of familiarity. However, that will not occur until he is gone, and until my children are grown, accompanied by a signed agreement that their identities will never be disclosed. It will happen after I modify my last name too, to shield them, if that ever comes to fruition. I would also strive to ensure that his victims receive the attention they deserve, should they choose, and that he is not glorified. Why am I sharing this? Partly to liberate myself further. Partly to demonstrate that healing is achievable. Partly to communicate that being raised by a monster does not necessitate becoming one. Partly to show that our history does not have to confine or permanently paralyze us. We can disrupt generational trauma. Just because someone is raised by a sexist, narcissistic, psychopathic, racist, sex-addicted, alcoholic, drug-addicted, gambling-addicted, rapist, murderer does not excuse supporting, ignoring, condoning, or protecting any of their beliefs. Healing is not simple, but I am living proof that it is viable. I have been sober for quite some time. I have never betrayed my husband. I nurture my children with love and respect. I fight for justice. I advocate for equality and human rights. All children are safe in my home and around me. I was raised by a monster, but I chose not to become one. Edited to include actual uncomfortable words, making it easier to read.